Hey guys, this is Hot Noob here, and obviously I haven't been posting up a lot of videos lately, and that's simply because it's the summertime. I don't know what it is, don't know why, whatever, but the heat makes me sleep a lot. Right now I've slept like 16 hours today or whatever, and I just feel like sleeping another 10 hours or so. But anyway, I gotta post something up to keep everyone here interested. So, I started this last night, and I woke up like a couple hours ago actually. So haven't touched this. So yeah. Anyway, I started this last night. I've been working on. Let's just go to my blog here. Close all that crap. Just going to go to my blog here to show you guys. So last night or so, I started working on this remaking the CodeName SSG game, right, and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just going to run it here, and then I'm going to go over through the background or the basics to show you guys how to code all of this. Right now, it sort of looks like there's nothing. It's like, oh my god, it's 5 minutes of work. It's totally not. This is a game engine, right? I didn't just hard code it in to display one little image, right? Because hard coding everything in would just be way, way too much work. So I'm just going to open up the project here to show you guys what's actually going on. It's been a while since I've used XNA, but here we are. No, that folder is not needed. Get rid of that. Okay, so basically I have everything split off into two main folders. The content here is from the XNA. I'm not a big fan of it, so you got our textures here, right? That's a really big texture file. I don't know why it's so big. And then we got this font file. The font file is for the fonts here. The texture is obviously for the background. And then I'm going to go back here, and then we have the data. So what I've done here is I've made it fires out the XML data. I'm just going to go into here to show it to you guys. Might as well close that for now. I'll start off with the textures XML. This is pretty much the file that tells the program what textures to load. I also have it so it gives them program names. I'll show you guys the function for that as well here. So in the codename SSG, I used my own little parsing language and whatnot, but this time I've decided to go with XML mainly because it's easier to use. It's not necessarily faster, but it's more bug-free, and it works, right? So obviously, though, when I release the game, I'm not sure, but I'll probably encrypt this data so it can't be modified, right? But it's just simple XML data to make it a lot easier to work with. So, yeah, first of all, when I'm loading it, I've run it through this load XML doc. Basically what it does is it loads in these variables here. I don't have a lot of them, but I'll probably have more of them added in. These are just some global variables that I thought could be useful, like the screen width, the screen height, right? Stuff like that, especially for background images and veals and stuff like that. So basically what happens is game starts up, it applies all these settings and updates that parameter for the screen size and whatnot, loads the texture data from here. So let's go to the texture data, right, and it opens up the textures.xml file, and it uses the .NET XML reader or XML document and just loops through the nodes and puts them into structures. Okay, I'm just going to open up the structure file now. And like I said before many times, CodeName SSG was my very first program that I made in C#. So it was so messy, so this time I'm trying to keep it neat. That's why I have all these files here, because I know how messy it's going to get. So, I think it goes into texture info or something like that. I don't actually need that, it's just there. The reason for using structures here is for efficiency reasons. I don't really need structures for the texture info, but right. The main thing that I switched from classes to structures was the render objects, right? Rather than just using one big massive class and have it loop through, I decided to go with the structures because they're a lot faster. You know, even though it's C# and using the .NET framework, it doesn't, you know, performance-wise, it's not as big as with structures in C++, but it still does make quite a bit of performance difference. So, yeah, obviously structures are a lot harder to program with and to use. However, what I've decided to do is I've decided to have nullable substructures in it, so it's not too much work. Right. So one of the things that I sort of started doing halfway in between with the other game engine was separating the render objects and all that. So basically when the game loads, wherever it is, just go to load map or something. Here we are. So what happens is it loads in all of the data, it unloads all of the unneeded textures, and then loads in over here the textures that it doesn't have loaded, right? And then it adds it all to this all render objects list. And yeah, that's the map. And then the GUI loading, it just doesn't unload all of the unneeded textures and whatnot. I've decided to keep it in a separate array. So anyway, I'm just gonna go find, I think it's update or something. Sorry, maybe it's in the render. Or the draw file probably. So here we are. So this one is just update active objects. It's going to be a little bit of a longer initial load time, but performance-wise, it's going to be a massive difference, especially when you get 1,000 different objects, right? So what I have it here doing now is it just checks a simple boolean, right? And it significantly decreases, you know, the render times, and it will increase the frame rates. I don't have the frame rates going, but I might as well just add this in here. Fine, I'll just add a simple int frame. Alright, I'll just, so you guys can see how fast it's actually going right now. So I'm going to open that up. There we go. So it's going fairly fast. Majority of that slowdown is actually just the console. Oh, that seems a bit slow. It should be by default at around 30 frames per second. Right, you can increase it. So I'm going to open up Task Manager to show you guys the efficiency. Right, and you gotta remember this is C#, so it's going to be a lot less efficient than C++. As you can see, even on this really, really shitty laptop, it's averaging probably around 1% CPU usage, and the majority of that is probably this console. I don't know if a lot of you know, but the console is actually very, very inefficient, but that's mainly because it doesn't bug out or anything. It's just, you know, made to be all this error checking crap. It's just, yeah, whatever. So as you can see, there's no real issues with the textures. 17 megabytes, right? I don't know how much is from the textures and whatnot. But we'll find out later on as I continue to develop this game again. Yep. I'm just going to minimize this, and I'm going to go back into the background stuff. So the way I have it working is it's sort of like HTML. I've made it so it works like HTML or XML like you'd expect it to. So let's see, where is it? Here we are. So what I've done is, okay, I can get rid of that. That's just a bit of a bottleneck there. So what I'm doing here is this is the function that I send everything through to parse the strings and turn them into integers and stuff. The reason for using data tables is because I don't want to, have to program all of that shit. And I have a feeling that data tables aren't going to be much, less efficient. And it's not a real big deal, right? It's just text data, text stuff. Is not too heavy. But I'm not going to do something like this for image work and stuff. And the reason for using integers for coordinates is because, it's faster, right? There's going to be some slight offset issues with the animations, but, all you got to do is reload this stuff. It's sort of worth it, right? The only hard part is going to be loading in between screens and stuff. That's where everything's going to get hit the hardest, right? But I'm designing this so you can run it in the background with 5 or 10% CPU. That's the goal, right? I don't think it should be any higher than that. Otherwise, there's no point in running it in the background any higher than that, right? Otherwise, you start burning out your computer and shit. So, yeah, I'm keeping it at integers for the coordinates, but I'm also going to have some background numbers. I haven't added into the structure yet, but because of the animations, because of that whole precision thing, basically I'm going to put in the background numbers. And the whole reason for this with the whole integer thing is because if you're using floats, basically every time you render an object, you have to round it, right? Whether or not it's an animated object or not, if it's moving or not, right? So that's where the whole animated object thing comes in, right? Basically, with an animated object, every time you move it, you're going to be rounding it, right? And if you have a static object that's not moving it, you're not going to be rounding it every time. I don't know how much sense that makes to you guys. And I have event handlers and whatnot. I've decided to do this a bit differently. In SSG, or rather, in the old version, I didn't really know how to use callbacks and stuff like that, so I used method invoking, right? Which use strings and stuff. So now it just has addresses to callbacks and a string of arguments and stuff, right, for the functions. It's pretty basic stuff. And yeah, I kept it nullable again for the whole render objects thing. So basically you can have clickable invisible objects and stuff like that. So I'm going to do the same thing like I do with the render objects, right? To show which one's display, I'm going to do the same thing for events, right? Right, it's just a lot faster overall, right? Like I said, it just increases a bit of the loading time. So sprite fonts. Might as well go to the draw function so you can guys see how simple the drawing is, right? So I'm just going to get rid of that frame crap. And here we are. This is it. This is pretty much it. It's just one big loop. I'm not sure if these booleans will do it, but basically you don't want the render objects here, like the active objects, to change while it's drawing, right? I ran into that issue a lot with CodeName SSG. I don't remember the solution, but I'm just going to try a simple boolean to say when it's rendering or when it's drawing or when it's not, right? Because if it's looping through and the length of it suddenly just, crashes or something, then the entire game will crash, right? Yeah. So I didn't show you guys the results of that divide by 2. Obviously, it's just going to be a quarter of the screen. Ta-da, right? So I'm running out of time. Hopefully you guys can get an idea of how much is actually behind a game engine. I mean, this is only one day, right? I'm planning to complete this in a couple days and then actually get on to creating the game and completing it in a month or so. I know I made a CodeName SSG in about half a year or so, but that was a learning project. Now I know what I'm doing. So hopefully I'll have a login screen sort of like this, probably a bit better, within a couple days or so. Anyway, this is Hot Noob. You guys can come check out my blog at hotnoob.com, and I'll see you guys later.